Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something you've probably seen happen, an AI project that looks amazing in the lab, a total success, but then when it's time to go big, it just completely crashes and burns. So why does this happen? Well, it turns out there are 4 hidden debts quietly building up right under the surface. So let's start with this really powerful idea from our source material. We usually think of failure as this slow, gradual thing, right? A slow decline. But in the world of AI at scale, that is just not how it works. The failure is sudden, it's sharp, and it almost always comes as a complete shock.
Think of it this way. It's less like your car slowly running out of gas, and a lot more like you're walking in the dark and you hit a hidden tripwire. That's what happens here. These organizations cross these invisible thresholds, where all these little hidden problems that were totally manageable on a small scale suddenly blow up and become system-breaking failures.
To really get our heads around this, we're going to structure this explainer like a medical diagnosis. First, we'll start in the emergency room to see the symptoms of failure. Then, we'll diagnose the underlying conditions, those 4 debts. We'll see how companies hide these problems, find the right tools to uncover them, recognize the common syndromes, and then finally, map out a path to get healthy again.
So what does this sudden failure actually look like? Just imagine a company that seems to be in perfect health. Its AI pilots are kicking butt, getting great results, everyone's high-fiving. They think, okay, it's time to scale this thing up.
But the moment they try to go big, it acts like a stress test that reveals this deep, hidden fragility. The system doesn't just get a little glitchy, it starts behaving in wild, unpredictable ways. The results become unreliable, key processes break down, and all that confidence just evaporates overnight. That's the non-linear collapse we're talking about.
And the reason for this collapse? It's not just one little bug or a bad algorithm. It's a set of deep, interconnected problems that the experts call the 4 hidden debts. Think of these as the underlying conditions that are making the organization sick, even if it looks perfectly fine on the outside.
Now, what's so fascinating here is that these debts aren't separate issues. They're a coupled system. They feed on each other. So, for example, your fragile tech systems create messy, ambiguous data. That messy data then completely overloads your people, who have to spend all their time manually cleaning it up. And that overload, it leads straight to security risks, because overworked people start cutting corners just to get the job done. It's a vicious cycle, a real domino effect.
Okay, so if these debts are so dangerous, why don't leaders see them coming? Well, it's because the organization gets really, really good at hiding the symptoms. It develops these compensation patterns that mask just how fragile everything actually is.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates the main way these debts are hidden. You have talented, dedicated employees who act like the organization's immune system. They work tirelessly, often through sheer heroics, to manually patch over all the deep systemic problems. They make it look like everything is running smoothly, when in reality, it's not.
And this brings us to a really critical question that every leader needs to ask. Is your success built on a resilient, well-designed system? Or is it actually running on the fumes of a few key people who are holding everything together with the digital equivalent of duct tape and prayers?
So, to see past these masked symptoms and the heroics, we need the right tools. We can't just look at the surface-level stuff. We need the organizational equivalent of an MRI or a blood test to see what's really going on inside.
The key here is to avoid what the source material calls dashboard theater. Those dashboards full of green lights that look great, but don't actually tell you anything important. Instead, we need directional diagnostics. These are tools designed to spark an honest conversation around one simple question. Are we really getting better, or are we just getting worse?
For instance, take a look at the rework ratio. It asks a super simple question. How much of our team's time is spent fixing old problems versus building cool new stuff? A ratio like this one, where 70% of your effort is just keeping the lights on, that is a massive red flag that you're spending all your energy patching up the past with nothing left for the future.
Once you start using these kinds of diagnostics, you start to see these common patient profiles pop up, or what the source calls executive archetypes. Let's walk through a few of the most common ones.
First up is a pattern that I'm sure many of us will find painfully familiar, the fragile, stable enterprise. This is the company that looks incredibly stable on the surface, but only because it's completely frozen in time.
In this kind of organization, everything works perfectly, as long as you don't breathe on it. The moment you try to change something, update a system, or innovate in any way, the whole fragile structure just shatters.
Innovation is completely frozen, and the biggest debts here are technical and ecosystem related. All right, next up, we've got the Defensible Data Organization. This is the company that has amazing data. They can build these incredibly accurate AI models, but for some reason, they can never seem to actually put them to work in the real world. So what's the hangup? It's something called unprovable lineage. They can't fully trace where the data came from or prove how it's been handled. And because of that, the AI is never fully trusted. It gets stuck in advisory mode. It can give you suggestions all day long, but it's never allowed to actually do anything on its own. The dominant debts here are data and security.
Okay, our next archetype is a very human one, the hero-powered team. This is the team that runs on the sheer talent, willpower, and adrenaline of its people.
This team is made up of those brilliant heroes we talked about earlier. But because the underlying systems are so broken, their job is just constant firefighting. And the inevitable result? Burnout. The dominant debt here is clearly personnel. Those heroes are your single point of failure.
And for our last archetype, we have the Audit Frozen Program. This is the organization that is so locked down by security, risk, and governance that it's basically paralyzed. It can't move.
On paper, this place looks perfect. There are no security breaches, that's for sure. But there's also zero trust in the systems or the people. Nobody feels empowered to act, and because of that, no AI can ever be given real autonomy. It's safe, but it's completely stuck.
So you've used the diagnostic tools, you've figured out which archetype you are. Now what? What's the treatment plan? Well, the key thing to remember is that you can't fix everything at once. It's all about careful sequencing. And that brings us to our final and most crucial takeaway. The path forward starts with an honest diagnosis, and then you have to sequence the treatment. You pay down the biggest, most painful debt first. Because at the end of the day, true AI maturity isn't just about having the smartest tech. It's about building an organization that holds together under pressure. It's about being resilient, not just intelligent. And that's the real diagnosis we all need to be making.